I'm 70 years old. And at 70, you start doing a certain kind of math. You look at the years behind you and the years ahead of you, and you realize the second number is smaller than the first, a lot smaller. And you can respond to that math in one of two ways. You can let it depress you, or you can let it focus you. I chose focus. Because here's the thing about knowing your time is limited. It burns away everything that doesn't matter. All the noise, all the nonsense, all the things you thought were important, they fall away. And what's left is a short list of things that actually count. Today, I want to give you that list. 5 things every gay man over 60 should do before it's too late. Not because I want to scare you, but because I love you enough to be honest with you. The clock is real, and these 5 things are worth doing while it's still ticking. Number 1, tell the people you love that you love them, out loud, in words. I know how that sounds. It sounds like something from a greeting card, but stay with me because I'm not talking about the casual love you at the end of a phone call. I'm talking about the real thing, sitting across from your daughter and telling her what she means to you, calling your brother and saying the things that men of our generation were never taught to say, looking at your partner, if you have one, and telling him specifically, in detail, why your life is better because he's in it. Men our age were raised in the school of silent love. Our fathers loved us by working, by fixing things, by showing up, but the words themselves, the actual words, those were rationed like sugar during the war. Maybe you heard I love you a handful of times in your entire childhood, maybe never. And we inherited that silence. We learned to love the same way, quietly, indirectly, through actions and presence and reliability. And there's something beautiful about that kind of love, but there's also something incomplete about it, because the people we love can't always read the silence. Your son might know you love him, but knowing and hearing are two different things. And there is something that happens in a person when they hear it, plainly in words, from someone who has never said it easily. It lands like rain on dry ground. And for us, for gay men who came out later in life, this matters double. Because a lot of our relationships carry scar tissue. The wife who felt the distance for decades. The children who sensed something they couldn't name. The siblings who found out late and wondered why we didn't trust them sooner. Those relationships survived the truth, but many of them are still healing. And healing needs words, not just time. Words. I told my daughter last year, straight out, I said, "You are one of the great loves of my life, and being your father is the best thing I have ever done." She was quiet for a second, and then she said, "Dad, I've waited 40 years to hear you say something like that. 40 years." She'd been waiting 40 years for words I could have said at any moment. Don't make your people wait. Say it now, while now is still available. Number 2, make peace with your body. This is one that nobody talks about in our community, and I'm going to talk about it. Gay culture has a complicated relationship with bodies. It always has. There is enormous pressure around youth and fitness and appearance. And if you spend any time on the apps or in gay spaces, you can start to feel like your body, your 70-year-old body with its scars and its sags and its history, is something to apologize for, something that disqualifies you. And I want to tell you something with my whole chest. Your body is not a liability. Your body is a miracle. It carried you through 7 decades. It survived things that should have broken it. It survived the stress of hiding, which I've talked about in other videos, decades of clenched jaws and held breath and swallowed truth. It survived a plague that took an entire generation of men like us. And if you lived through those years, you know exactly what I mean. And the fact that you are here, in this body, breathing, is not something to apologize for. It is something to honor. Making peace with your body means a few practical things. It means going to the doctor, actually going. Men our age avoid doctors, and gay men our age sometimes avoid them harder because of old wounds, times when medicine treated us like a problem instead of a patient. Find a doctor you trust, one who knows who you are, and go. Get the screenings. Take the pills if you need the pills. Your body has carried you this far. Carry it the rest of the way. It also means moving, not training for a marathon, just moving, walking, stretching, swimming, whatever your knees will allow. The difference between the men I know who are thriving at 75 and the ones who are fading is not luck, it's motion. And it means, and this is the hardest one, letting yourself be touched. So many of us went years, decades even, without real physical affection. And the body remembers that drought. If you have a partner, hold him. If you don't, hug your friends. Get a massage. Dance. Touch is not a luxury, it's a nutrient. And most men our age are starving for it without knowing it. Making peace with your body also means something quieter. It means forgiving it. Your body is going to keep changing, and the direction of change is not negotiable. The hair, the skin, the strength, the stamina, all of it is moving one way. And you can spend your remaining years at war with that, comparing yourself to photographs and mourning every new decline. Or you can call a truce. I look in the mirror now and I see a 70-year-old man, and I've stopped arguing with him. This is the face. This is the body. It's the only one that made it here with me. Every line on it is paid for. I'd rather walk around inside it with gratitude than with grief. And I'll tell you a secret about that truce. It's attractive. Not in the app way, in the real way. A man who is at home in his own aging body is magnetic in a way that no amount of gym time can produce. Peace shows. Wear it. Number 3. Build the thing that will outlast you. At some point in these years, the question changes from what do I want to what will I leave? And I'm not talking about money, I'm talking about legacy in the real sense. What of you continues after you're gone? And for gay men our age, this question has a particular weight. Many of us don't have the default legacy structure that straight men have. Some of us have children, some don't. Some of us are estranged from family. Some of us watched our chosen family, the men who would have been our legacy witnesses, die young in the 80s and 90s. So we have to be intentional about legacy in a way that other people don't. Here's what building the thing that outlasts you can look like. It can look like mentoring. There are young gay men right now, 20 and 25 and 30 years old, who are desperate for elders. They grew up with rights we never dreamed of, but many of them are lost in ways we recognize, because visibility is not the same as wisdom. You live through history they only read about. You know things about survival and dignity and patience that no app can teach them. Find them. Community centers, youth organizations, online spaces. Show up. Be the older gay man you needed when you were young and there was no one. That is legacy. It can look like recording your story. I'm doing it right now, in a way. You don't need a camera. Write it down. Speak it into your phone. The details of your life, the specific texture of what it was like to be you, in your town, in your decade, with your secret. That is history. Real history. And when you're gone, it's gone with you unless you put it somewhere. Your story could be the thing that makes some frightened man in 2060 feel less alone. Don't take it to the grave. The grave doesn't need it. The world does. And it can look like simple generosity. The community organizations that serve older LGBTQ people, the ones I've mentioned in other videos, they run on donations and volunteers. Give what you can. Time, money, presence. Every hour you give is a brick in a building you'll never see finished. That's what legacy is. Bricks in buildings you'll never see finished. Number 4. Do the thing you've been postponing. You know the thing. Don't pretend you don't. Every man watching this has a thing. The trip you've been meaning to take. The piano you've been meaning to learn. The novel you've been meaning to write. The country you've always wanted to see. The friend across the ocean you keep saying you'll visit. The thing that lives in the someday file. And I want to tell you something about the someday file at our age. It's a myth. There is no someday. There is only now and not now. And every year the not now gets more expensive. Your knees get older, your energy gets shorter, the window narrows. I'm not saying that to be grim. I'm saying it because urgency is a gift when you use it right. I'll tell you about my thing. My thing was Italy. My whole life I wanted to see Italy. And for decades there was always a reason. The kids, the money, the job. Then after I came out, new reasons. Too complicated, too late. Who goes to Italy for the first time at 68? And then my partner sat me down one night and said, "We're going to Italy. I already bought the tickets. You have 4 months to get a passport renewed." And we went. 2 old men in Rome, getting lost, eating too much, holding hands on streets where nobody knew us and nobody cared. And one evening in Florence, standing on a bridge at sunset, I started crying and couldn't fully explain why. But I'll try to explain it to you. I was crying because it was real. Because the thing I had postponed for 50 years was actually happening. and it was better than the postponing ever let me imagine. And I was crying because of how close I came to never doing it. That's the thing about the someday file. When you finally open it, the grief and the joy show up together. Grief for the waiting, joy that you stopped. So here's my question for you. What's in your someday file? And what would it take to move one thing, just one, from someday to a date on the calendar? Not the whole list. One thing. Book it, start it, sign up for it, the lessons, the trip, the visit, the class. You have more time than you fear, but less time than you assume. Spend it on purpose. And I want to be clear that the thing doesn't have to be Italy. The someday file isn't only full of big, expensive items. Some of the things in there are small, absurdly small. Learning to make bread, going fishing again, getting a dog, planting the garden you keep looking at other people's pictures of. One of the men in my Thursday group, his postponed thing was piano lessons. 73 years old, never touched a piano, always wanted to. He found a teacher who works with older beginners, and he goes every Tuesday, and he is, by his own cheerful admission, terrible. Genuinely terrible, and he is also happier than I have ever seen him because it turns out the joy was never in being good at it. The joy was in finally being allowed. He spent 70 years being a man who didn't do things like that, and now he's a man who does. That identity shift from a man who postpones to a man who begins, that's worth more than the skill itself. You're not too old to be a beginner. Being a beginner at 70 is one of the most alive things a person can do. Number 5. Decide who will be there at the end. And tell them, this is the heaviest one and I saved it for last on purpose, because it's the one that matters most and the one we avoid hardest. Every man watching this is going to reach an end. That's not morbid, that's just true. And the question that determines what those final years and months look like is simple. Who is around you? Who has the keys to your house? Who talks to your doctors? Who makes the decisions if you can't? Who sits with you? For married straight couples, there's a default answer. The spouse, then the kids. The system is built for them. For us, it's more complicated. Some of us have partners we're not married to. Some of us have chosen family who are closer than blood family. Some of us have blood family who don't know us or don't accept us, and the law will hand them the keys anyway if we don't put it in writing. I've seen it happen. I watched a friend of mine, a man who spent 30 years with his partner, end up in a hospital where the partner had no legal standing and a brother who hadn't spoken to him in 15 years made the decisions. Everything they built together, invisible in the eyes of the law because the paperwork never got done. Do not let that be your story. So here's the practical part. Get the documents, a will, a healthcare proxy, power of attorney. It's not expensive and it's not complicated, and there are LGBTQ legal organizations that help with exactly this. Put in writing who speaks for you, and then the deeper part, tell your people. Sit down with the ones you've chosen and say, if it comes to it, I want it to be you. That conversation is uncomfortable for about 10 minutes. And then it's done, and something remarkable happens. The fear gets smaller. Because the great terror of aging as a gay man, the one underneath all the others, is dying alone or dying among strangers. And the antidote to that terror is not hope, it's arrangement. You don't hope someone will be there. You choose them, you ask them, you put it in writing, and then you get to spend the rest of your years free of that particular fear because you answered the question while you still had the power to answer it. And let me say one more thing about this. Being chosen is an honor. When I asked my daughter to be my healthcare proxy, I apologized while I was asking, like I was burdening her. And she stopped me and said, Dad, you're telling me I'm the one you trust most. Do you understand what that means to me? I hadn't thought of it that way. The people who love you want to be chosen. Choosing them is not a burden you place on them. It's a gift you give them. So give it. So that's the list. But before I close, I want to add something that didn't fit neatly into the 5, and it might be the most urgent one of all. Reach back out to the person you lost touch with, not the one who rejected you. I'm not asking you to reopen wounds. I mean the friend where nothing went wrong, the one where life just drifted you apart, the college roommate, the old coworker, the man from your first support group who moved away, the friendship that didn't end, it just faded, the way friendships do when nobody's paying attention. At our age, those faded friendships are recoverable in a way that surprises people. Because here's what I've learned. The other person usually thinks about you too. They also wonder whatever happened to you. They also assume too much time has passed. Both of you are standing on opposite sides of the same wall, each assuming the other one built it. Last year, I called a man named Walter who I hadn't spoken to in 11 years. No falling out, just drift. I found his number through his son, and I called him, and when he picked up, I said, "Walter, it's me." And there was this pause, and then he said my name and started laughing, and we talked for 2 hours like the 11 years were 11 days. He told me he'd thought about calling me 100 times and always figured too much time had passed. 100 times. Both of us, wanting the same thing. Both of us too proud or too embarrassed or too something to dial. We have lunch every month now. And every time I see him, I think about how close I came to letting that friendship stay dead just because reaching out felt awkward for the length of one phone call. One awkward phone call, that's the entire price. Weigh that against what you get back. So think of your Walter. You have one. Everybody has one. Call him this week. The worst case is a strange 5 minutes. The best case is you get a piece of your life back. And there's a version of this that's specific to us. Some of you lost friends when you came out. Not to rejection exactly, but to awkwardness. Straight friends who didn't know what to say and so said nothing, and the nothing hardened into distance. Some of those friendships are also recoverable. Not all, but some. A simple message. I miss you. I'd love to catch up. No accusations, no rehashing. You'd be amazed how many people are relieved to receive that message because they've been carrying guilt about the silence and didn't know how to break it either. You breaking it first is a strength move, not a weakness move. And at our age, pride is a luxury that costs too much. Spend it on people instead. Let me also speak to the men who are watching this and thinking, this is all well and good, but I'm not out yet. Because I know you're there. The 5 things I listed, most of them you can do right now, exactly where you are. You can tell people you love them from inside the closet. You can make peace with your body. You can do the postpone thing. You can get your documents in order. The closet doesn't lock you out of any of this. And here's what I've noticed with the men I've known who came out late, myself included. Doing these things, these life-honoring, time-respecting things, tends to build the exact muscle that coming out eventually requires. The muscle of acting on what matters instead of waiting. So don't think of this list as something for after. Think of it as training. Every deliberate act of living is practice for the biggest one. So the list. Tell the people you love that you love them in words. Make peace with your body. Build the thing that outlasts you. Do the thing you've been postponing. And decide who will be there at the end and tell them. 5 things. None of them require money you don't have or youth you can't get back. Every one of them is available to you this week. And I want to be clear about why I made this video, because it's not to remind you that time is short. You know time is short. Every man over 60 knows it in his bones. I made this video because knowing time is short and using time well are 2 different skills. And a lot of us mastered the first one and never got taught the second. We got so good at counting what's left that we forgot to spend it. Don't just count your years, spend them. Spend them loudly and deliberately and on the things that count. You survived everything it took to get here. The hiding, the fear, the losses, the years of performing. You survived all of it. And these years, these ones right now, this is what you survived for. Not to sit quietly in the waiting room of your own life. To live, finally, fully, as yourself. So go do the 5 things. Start with whichever one scares you least, or whichever one scares you most. Honestly, either way works. Just start. If this landed with you, tell me in the comments which of the 5 you're going to do first. I read every comment and I mean that. And if you've already done some of these, tell the other men how it went. That's what this channel is for. Men like us, talking to each other, the way nobody talked to us when we needed it. Subscribe if you want more of these conversations. I'm not going anywhere, and neither should you. There's too much left to do.